Afternoon, everyone. How are you? I am actually typing something in the chat right now for you. If you could kindly pop in the chat and tell me if you're a public or you work at a public or academic library or even special libraries, that'd be great. And where are you coming from in this beautiful state of New York State? I am, as Jeremy said, I am Sandra Michelle Eccles. I am the immediate past president of the New York Black Librarians Caucus. In addition to doing that, I am the current gala chair, and we will have our 50th anniversary next Saturday on November 14th. You can just check out things on the NYLA website. So with that said, I'm going to jump right on into my PowerPoint. I hope you all can get together and have some great questions for me, and I'm going to start now. And so, skilled up librarians repurposing their careers post-COVID-19. I know that this week has been a very challenging week for us all, but we will get through this, and we have questions about where we stand in the field of librarianship as librarians. COVID-19 has ushered in an era of a remote era, and we're entering a workplace that is totally unknown to us and unlike anything that we've seen in the past. So my presentation today will talk about how we can look at the skills that we currently have, repurpose them, reposition ourselves, and to maintain employable. So here is a quote that I'm actually love quotes. And this one is, accept the fact that you're fully responsible for your career. So think about that. That's by a really nice author that I know. His book is called No Parking, No Halt, Success Nonstop. So we have to accept the fact that we are fully responsible for our career, but we're not fully responsible for the circumstances that happen around us, like COVID-19. It happened. It's something that we cannot change from. And what will we do to get ourselves fully engaged in our career? And I am so sorry. I live in New York City and my window was open. My headphones was not working. So you may get some background noise of folks riding around in their cars. So I think about what's your story. So when you're looking to repurpose and reskill, you really need to think about your story. What is your story? Why did you become a librarian? And if people are here in the audience and you're not a librarian and you are working in libraries, what attracts you to working in libraries? And we got to think about our story. Like, why did you become, or why you chose the field that you chose? So I have a word cloud of my story. There's a lot of things going on in this cloud. As you can see, librarians, education, university, the schools, having a master's. I love working with adult students. So that's something that's a part of my story. Another thing that's a part of my story is the fact that I am a career changer. I did not enter in the field of librarianship early on. I actually changed careers. I came from the nonprofit sector, and I was able to take my skills from the nonprofit sector and translate that into my career as a librarian 13 years ago. So we
Senator
can
Michelle,
definitely.
I hate to interrupt,
That's
but
okay.
your slides aren't up.
They're not up. I'm seeing them, and I hit share, and okay, what's going on with my computer? I'll share again. Thank you. Is that better? Are you seeing my slides now?
There we go. Well, we see there's the first slide is up now. Yep.
All right. I'm so sorry.
No. Sorry. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So I'll go back. So the quote I had up here is, accept the fact that you are fully responsible for your career. And then this was a slide. What is your story? Why did you become a librarian, or why are you working in libraries? That is something that you should constantly think about. Just write about it. Don't think about writing about your story because you're waiting to start your interviewing. Think about the things that you're currently doing in your field every day in your position, and write those things down as well, because you'll be surprised at what skills that you skills that you acquire and how you acquired them when you're doing things, especially when you're working on special projects. So back to my story, here's the word cloud. There's different words here. I talked about that. So I'm going to move on to, the places you'll go, right? Dr. Seuss, I love him. He says, we have brains in our head, we have feet in our shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. And I feel like this would be applicable to us in terms of where our next steps are in our careers. If you're looking to change careers, how do you change careers? How do you take the skills that you have, the stackable skills that you have, and translate them into your new position? I know people probably have tons of questions, and as soon as I finish with my presentation, I promise I will try and answer as many questions that there are about changing careers or about improving your career or just taking a look at your career. We should all take some time and take inventory of our careers. So, reskill and repurpose. Employment of libraries projected to grow 6% from 2018 to 2028. This was taken from the Labor Board, and it's one of those occupations that is growing. Think about some of the skills that we do now that, we're working remote, librarians are remote, the programming that we've been doing remotely. These are all skills that you can repurpose. So, we have this application, you apply for jobs and you're wondering, wait, I'm applying for jobs, I'm not getting any callbacks. What's going on? What's the reason why I've applied for this job and I haven't gotten callback? So here's some things that you might want to think about. Are you tailoring your resume and your cover letter you send out to specific jobs in the companies? Have you networked with friends and colleagues and other professionals to learn about possible job openings? Do you fill out online applications completely with information and answers that beat the applicant system? So I'm gonna stop right there and pause because a lot of people don't know that there's a system called the applicant tracking system that when you apply for a job online, if your resume does not contain top keywords or key phrases that are in the job description somewhere along or using action verbs or the adjectives in your resume will never end up on the hands of an HR professional. And I'm gonna say that again. The applicant tracking system is the #1 reason why you don't get callbacks to even embark upon being offered an interview. There's a few others that you might want to think about as well. Have you proofread your application materials, making sure that you don't have any grammar or any spelling errors? Or have you asked someone else to proofread your resume? Another tip that I would say is, have you read your resume out loud to yourself? One of the things that I personally use on my computer at all times is I have Grammarly.com on my computer. So if I'm working on something and you're in that moment, you might want to fact check your grammar and just utilize that. Another way that they say, are you active in professional associations or networking groups? We're all here at NYLA, so we're active in a professional organization. That's another way that, when you're thinking about post-COVID, how can you go and change and how can you repurpose your skills that you want to repurpose for the next position? And have you asked the person in your network if they knew someone that currently worked at a particular company? And last but not least, you may not think that you want to hire a professional, but you may need to hire a professional to help you write your resume or edit your resume. Or even if you're moving into academia, there's a curriculum vitae, your CV. So what I did for myself personally, and I've also coached some of my mentees in the same way, was that a SWOT analysis. We think about a SWOT analysis are only for businesses. They're not just only for businesses. They're for us personally too to utilize. Think about, what are your strengths? What do you bring to a company, right? What may be some of your weaknesses that you've worked through that you can talk about during an interview? So when you're interviewing for a position and someone asks the dreaded questions, tell me about some of your weaknesses. You would answer that question in a way of giving it what I like to say, you give a situation, how you applied it, and then what the resolution is, right? So a situation could be, you're not great at public speaking. So what did you do? So you would tell this new employee, this potential employer, one of my greatest weaknesses is that I do not speak well in public. I'm an introvert and I had a fear of speaking around large crowds. So what did you do? I joined Toastmasters. I started presenting at conferences, and that was a way for me to come out of that, build my skills and build my confidence in speaking in public. So you had a situation, you did an action, and you showed the resolution during the interview. That's one of the greatest things that you can do in a job interview. So then you think about your opportunities. Where are some opportunities lie? Oftentimes, we're our own worst critic, and we prohibit ourselves from going after a position because we feel that we don't have everything that job title has there. Use that as an opportunity. Sometimes it's good to interview for positions that you don't think you're qualified for, because sometimes you can use that interview, as actors like to use it, as a dress rehearsal, right? We'll go on a dress rehearsal. You go on that interview. Today, most of our interviews are now done on the platform that we're on now, via Zoom, via WebEx. And so there's some etiquette that goes along with interviewing online. And there's a lot of tips and tricks that you can do. When you're interviewing, you don't want to hear this going on, the crumbling of your paper, because that's distracting to the interviewee. But what you can do, as I've done previously, is like I would put Post-its next to my computer, and I would have certain key things to remind myself to talk about. I would put my own buzzwords there so that I would remind myself that I need to speak about that in my job interview. So personal SWOT analysis, you want to know how you can actually do it. So you look at your internal, which is your strengths and your weaknesses, and the external things is your opportunities in your career fields and the threats in your career fields. So right now, everyone feels that COVID-19, not everyone, a lot of people feel that COVID-19 is a threat in many industries. But I'm here to say, if you think about some of the things that we were doing in libraries, as far as digital literacy, as far as things that maker spaces and things of that nature, that's not a threat for us. This shouldn't be a threat. We just have to realize, how can we take and repurpose our skills, even in terms of reference services. How does those reference services differ today? So back to COVID-19, and we're in your employment. I've talked a lot about that, so I'm hoping people will have questions in the chat in regards to that. And so stages of reinvention, right? So how can we reskill and repurpose? This is something that I think about in terms of, in a lot of career coaches around the country, research has shown you should think about your career in 5 stages. Think about where you are today. So the first stage, how you can reclaim your path, right? You're in charge. So think about, because the stage when you start at, you're in charge. What is it that you're in charge of? You're in charge of your career. You can make changes in your career, or you don't make the changes in your career. So you look over your career journey, especially if you are looking to move from a mid-level position to a leadership position, or if you're in an entry-level position and you want to go into a leadership position, an entry-level leadership position, managerial-wise. Think about what it is that you actually bring to the table. What are some of the skills that you might want to go out and get? How can you get these skills? And, just really think about where it is. All right. So once you thought about that, you have everything there. That's stage 1. Stage 2, have a growth mindset. I think I'm going to pause because I see someone raise their hand, and maybe there's a question, because I can pause. I saw the hand raise.
If someone raised their hand, they took it back down.
Okay, so I'll keep going. So stage 2, have a growth mindset. This is very important. Just think about what you see around. What's a growth mindset? A growth mindset is that you show that you're able to grow, right? Don't have a closed mindset and you're looking to repurpose your career. Just think about having a growth mindset. So basically, look at your past, look at the present, look at the future, where you want to be at in your career, make these connections, and create a vision for yourself. Visualize it. Then think about, what are some of the trainings that you can participate in to enhance your skills? How you can acquire these new skills? Where can you get these skills from? And then seek feedback from others that can help you along the way. Stage 2. Oh, it's not moving. What happened here? My screen stopped. Sorry about that. It's stopped moving. Here we go. In a fast-moving competitive world, right? This quote here, being able to learn new skills is one of the keys to success. It's not enough to be smart. You need to always be getting smarter. I'm an academic professor, and at the beginning of the semester, I usually turn and write the word learn on the board to my students, and I tell them we're going to play a word search game, and they look at me and they're like, why do you want to play a word search game? So we look at the word learn. So if you drop off the letter L, you left with the word earn, right? And when you drop off the letter N, you left with the word ear. What do we use our ears to do? We listen. And when we listen, we are able to learn. And when we learn, we're able to increase our earning potentials. So I usually tell the students, if you put a cap on your learning, you put a cap on your earning power. So that's like my little tidbit that I give out to people. So communication for the digital age. Communication today is listed as the #1 skill found in all job posters, according to LinkedIn, right? According to LinkedIn, since June of this year. There's an increase in that demand for communication skills. I'll posit the question to you. You can pop it in the chat. Why do you think communication skills is the #1 skill that has popped up since we've been in this in COVID? Think about that. It's the #1 skill. So here I'm gonna spend a little time going over the top 10 skills. Top 10 skills according to All Workspace in the future of the work, the most desirable skills for worker after COVID-19. One of the top 10 skills, as I already said, was communication. In addition to communication, think about, you have prioritization. Like, how do you prioritize? We're working from home. We have our family at home. Some individuals have their kids at home with them and their spouses at home, and you're trying to work. How do you prioritize? How do you get everything done in a day? And then also, how do you have that transition between your days since we're working from home? What are some of the things that you do that you prioritize in your life that you can do to make some changes? For myself personally, I get up every morning and I walk. I walk because I want to get some air before I sit down and have a long day at the computer. Oftentimes in the middle of the day, if I have a break, a 2-hour break, I treat it like a lunch hour, and I'll go back outside and I'll take a walk, and then I'll come back home again, because we need to build in those breaks in between, as though we were still working, going to the office, for those of us who are still working totally 100% remotely from home. Then we have to think about, how can we become adaptable, right? Adaptability. We're adapting to this new space. We're adapting to this new era that has been ushered in, and things will change, and things are changing each and every day for the world of work. Do you take initiative? So think about when COVID first happened and things that happened, and everybody had like so much uncertainty. What initiatives did you take that helped your company, that helped your library system that you worked in, that you're working in? And then integrity, this is really big. Like, so you're home alone, you're working. This is why some companies want to rush and bring people back into their buildings, because they felt like there might not been an integrity, that people may not be working solely from home. They might be doing a bunch of other things. Well, scheduling a meeting for someone at 4 o'clock and you knew they were a parent is not a good time to have a meeting, right? So where's the integrity on the company's part, on the manager's part for doing that? Analytical thinking. As librarians, we all learned how to research, and analytical thinking is our biggest thing. We know how to analyze and think critically. So that's a skill that if it came to a position that we don't know what's going to happen next year with budgets, with the city budget, libraries are furloughing, they're laying people off. There are, some people say that some systems are not hiring across the country. So think about, what are the core skills that you acquired in school, and how can you take those skills and transfer them into a different position working for a different company? Relationship building. I cannot stress this enough. I built so many relationships throughout my career, both in the nonprofit sector and also working in libraries. Relationship building is key for me personally, because when you need to get those reference letters from individuals when you're applying for a job, you should have key people. You should have at least 5 key people that you can call and say, check your email. I just sent you a copy of my resume and a copy of the job description that I'm applying for. And I want you to take a look at it, just in case. I want you to have it, just in case you receive a phone call and they're inquiring about me as, giving my reference. That's a strong relationship. That's something that everyone needs to have and do. I have 5 people, because most companies, when you apply for a job, ask for 3, but you just never know what somebody might be doing. So I usually always send it out to 5 people. In addition to that, empathy. Empathy is very, very important. How important is empathy? You need to be able to empathize with people. We're living in a time right now, as I said, I can't stress it anymore. There's so much uncertainty going on in the world. But having empathy will also be a great skill to have post-COVID. And of course, coaching, be able to be coached and also to be able to give coaching, because gone are the days when companies had when they would come together and you had professional development, but if the onboarding process, that onboarding process is not the way it used to be. At least I know 20 years ago, there were training and development departments at most companies. Those have seemed to diminish as the years gone by. And so being able to learn how to bring along somebody else and coach them. And last but not least, the top skill is resilience, right? Being resilient. Resiliency will take you a long way, especially when you're looking to change your career or looking for a new position. And this has froze again, I guess because when I don't know what's going on. All right, stage 3. How do you document your value? Like, so you're working on your resume, you're working on your cover letter, or you're working on a CV. How do you document your value? So you got to think about, explore the newly acquired skills. If you have, look at what you gained attending conferences, look at what skills that you gained just doing on the job, or even if you decided to avail yourself to one of the multitude of MOOCs that's on the market, right? If you took a course at Coursera, if you took a course at lynda.com is now part of LinkedIn. These are things that you may want to think about, those courses, because short courses are actually looking better in the field for individuals and earning badges and having badges added onto as well, your digital profile, right? Your digital footprint. Then, as I said earlier, I can't stress that enough, you meet new people and you network. The next step for stage 3, documenting your value, is recognizing new opportunities. How do you recognize these new opportunities that are out there? And diminish any uncertainty or confusion about taking the next step. All of that falls into when you want to document yourself. So stage 4, we're going to put all this together. You're going to choose the new path that you want to go on. You put the plan in place, right? You add the new skills into your action. When you revise and update your resume, your professional summary or your professional profile is like your brand statement. And everyone is talking about brand statement. Like, what is your brand? So work on building your brand. That's something that you work on your own, or you work with someone that can help you. And you flesh out your brand statement. It's also, the brand statement is derived from that 60-second commercial that everyone talks about, or the 30-second commercial, that elevator pitch. When the old term was elevator pitch, the new term is your brand statement. Think about that and how you can integrate that brand statement in your summary, in your profile summary on your resume. The next thing is think about what skills, right? Both hard skills and soft skills that you bring to the table. How do you integrate those in your resume to demonstrate who you are and give a person a clear picture? So when you're revising and updating your resume, you also got to remember what I stated earlier, is that whatever job that you're applying for, have that job description along when that window opens. So you do a split screen. One side of the screen is the job description. The other side of the screen in your computer is your current resume. And you look and see where you can find keywords and key phrases that overlap. And make sure that you have them in your resume. And definitely research the current employment postings. Think about, as I said, the keywords and your action verbs. The one thing that people fail to realize, if you're updating your resume and you had a new position, sometimes people forget to go and change those action verbs from present to past. And that's like the number one killer that I see on resumes when I'm talking to HR professionals and asking them, what is it that you see on resumes, the most common mistake that people make? Past position. Instead of saying revise, it should be revised. Like, that's just proofreading. That's part of proofreading. That's like a number one killer when you're doing that. And so stage 5 is taking step, reflecting, and stepping back and looking at it again and again, right?
Senator Michelle, can you reshare your screen?
I don't know what is happening with my screen today. I will. Thank you. I'm having technology difficulties today. That is not good. Okay, here we go. Maybe I should just leave it. It took me back to the beginning. Okay, this is really a technology bloop today. My apologies. So I'm at stage 5, and I talk about, putting everything into motion, forward motion, giving yourself permission to utilize your new skills and understand it. So when you do that, if you acquired new skills by taking a course online and you want to implement it at your current position, go to your immediate supervisor and say, hey, I learned this. Maybe can I try this out with the programming next month? See what happens. If you're looking and you're really thinking about, you really want to change, start researching the prospective employers way before you decide to start applying for jobs, because the research comes in when you look at the company's website, you look and see what they have going on, and just think about those things. Of course, we're all part of professional organizations, and you can take control of your job search and your career. One of the things that I want to say that people always think about, how is it that I'm going to translate my skills if, for instance, libraries do a massive layoff in the coming year because of the budget cuts? Where can I go work at? You'll be surprised where your skill set can land you at. I came from nonprofit into the world of librarianship. I can always take it and go back into nonprofit with my skill set. So we have really great skills, and just think about what tools you have in your toolkit. So my quote that I'm leaving you with is your thoughts affect your emotions, your emotions affect your decisions, and your decisions affect your life. So let's just think about how we're going to make these decisions that we're going to do post-COVID, and just really stay grounded in where you are. And that's it for my presentation. I thank you. I'm now opening up for questions. I know that there are probably a lot of questions out here. So, Jeremy, you want me to check the chat, or are we going to start?
There's chat in 2 places. There is chat on the conference page as well as on the Zoom. So I know you can see the ones that are directly in Zoom. I will tell you that many people would like to have a copy of your slides. So if you share those with us, if you're willing, we can make sure that they get archived on this page. But many people are asking. So if that's something you're agreeable to, I know you're going to make a lot of folks happy.
I'll make a lot of folks happy. Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? It's research. Just cite me. We're all librarians. Make sure you just cite me. I will share my slides. I do not have a problem with it. Just cite me.
Absolutely. So we can, if you would like to come up to the microphone, if you will,
Yes.
if we were in the room, which is a great way to interact. So if you would like to be on mic, then you can raise your hand. If you're in Zoom, obviously you can just click on the raise hand button. If you're watching this on the conference site, you would click on the participants button, which is right there. And that will pop up a little side pane, and then you'll see the raise hand button. Once we see that you've raised your hand, we can open up your mic and you would be able to voice your question. If not, you can also drop your questions in the chat. So happy to keep an eye on those too. But we have plenty of time for questions.
Plenty of time. Yep.
And I know Senator Michelle is great on the hot seat, so there's nothing you can throw that she won't be able to field.
All right, have at it. Questions, tips. Really?
I think they're typing. Here we go.
Oh, they're typing? Okay. I'm like, wait a minute.
The first one is on the conference site. It's from Lori Dreyer. Hi, Lori, from the Newburgh Free Library. Can you talk more about alternate industries where library skills might come in handy?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you, Lori. Yes. So one place I definitely talked about was nonprofit. You can also look at the business sector, because social media, those of you who do a lot of social media at your respective libraries, that is a position. Social media experts, you can do that. You can also look at teaching, going into education. I mentioned before that I'm an adjunct professor at several colleges in New York State, and I teach online currently now as well. So I didn't know that Southern New Hampshire had a course where it's called Perspectives in Liberal Arts. And I currently teach that course there. And it was my librarian degree that actually got me the job to teach that course. So that's something that you can think about as well, where you can translate that. There's a lot of sectors. You can actually just go to My Skills, My Future and type in your title, librarian, our job title, and it will show you, it's a government site, it will show you all the places where our skills are transferable in. I hope that answered your question.
I think so. There's also a question from Bonnie Manslow, and she would comment that I think a good tip is to review the many hats that you wear in a library and expand on that.
Yes. So I would take the hats that you wear. So if you work clerical, you do the administrative duties. If you even are asked to write a paragraph in a grant, that's grant writing. If you're asked to, your library assistant received a huge grant and it was disseminated to your department, then that is grant reporting, because those reports that you get asked to submit, that can go on your resume as grant writing and grant reporting. And so you can then take those skills and maybe want to delve into grant writing because you were asked to write that part, and then you said, okay, I'll take a course on grant writing. As a matter of fact, Web Junction has 2 free courses that you can avail yourself to look at grant writing and grant reporting.
Excellent. Lori Fishman from New York State Docs is asking, I know yesterday in a program, Simone's program, we talked about cover letters.
Yes.
Can you identify some keywords for the actual resume that you might recommend?
For actual librarian resume, keywords is, let me see, off the top of my head, I would say you definitely have to talk about how you administer, right? Assess is another good one. Administer, assess, what else? I had a keyword, I had that up too. I actually had that up. Administer, assess, in addition to that, how you record things. There is a ton of words that you can use. At the top of my head, that one stumped me for a second. I literally need to go to my Word document. I didn't have that one open and think about that. But yeah, you gather is another one. Plan is another one. Implement is another good one. I hope that one helped you. But you can do a quick internet search and it come up with a lot of adjectives that you can use.
So I know you've mentioned a few different websites, the My Skills, My Future, as well as the Foundation Center. Any other great website tips you've got for us, or resources and references to take a look at?
JobScan is another site that I like to look at and use. JobScan is really good. I also use the Balanced Career to look at sample resumes, sample cover letters. Who else? Indeed definitely has the whole learning platform on their side. But my favorite go-to site is JobScan. They seem to be more up to date. As I said, I'm a professor. So this morning I taught a career development class. And one of the questions one of my students said to me was, is the one page, the career service department at the institution said that her resume had to be one page. This is a woman who is 38, has worked from various different companies, has worked over 5 years of continuous employment. You can't put 5 years of continuous employment on a one-page resume. And so she says, well, they told me I need a one-page resume. I said, well, this is for your grade. I will tell you to do it in a one-page resume. But if you're going out into the real world, you have so much to offer a company, you need to think about making it a 2-page resume. And she was like, that's what I thought. I was like, definitely. So then if you're that person that has worked for the past 20 years, right? What do you put on your resume? It's only the last 10 to 15 years. So that way, if you are an older seasoned person like myself, you don't want to be able to date yourself. So you put in the last 10 years on your resume.
And that's a perfect segue into the next question that had popped into the chat, and which was, what about ageism? How do we overcome being over 50 or 60, and how do we address that on the resume?
So on a resume, you take off the dates. Don't put the years that you graduated from school. If you have taken any new courses and you go out and get a certificate program, you put that, then you flip the education, you put, you start off with your professional profile, then you go into your skills. Then the next step that you would go into would be your education if you wanted to highlight that, or you do the work experience and then put the education at the last, at the bottom of your resume. So it really depends on what position you're going for and what you want to highlight. But in terms of ageism, I just read a really great article about that. And that was the thing. One of the tips was just go back 10 years. And then you put those positions at the bottom. You can put at the bottom of the resume additional work experience and just put the years. And it's at the, on the very bottom at the last page. So that's one of the ways to prevent ageism. And then when you're interviewing and you have a younger person maybe interviewing you, and they talk about age, you feel, you get that vibration that, you know, they're looking at you like, why are you wanting to come to work? You know, you should be older, you know, just whatever goes through people's minds. Pay that no attention, turn that chatter off. And then you talk about you build in your discussion in your interview on how you can relate and build a relationship with a younger person. If there's a company that's hiring younger people, or, you know, younger generation, how you can learn from that young person, especially if your technology skills are not where you feel they should be. You can say, you know, I can learn from this person who is, you know, recent college grad and has all these great social media, great tech skills. I'm willing to learn from that person, as well as I can pass on some great professional development etiquette, like how to carry yourself in the world, in the workforce. So there's ways that you can take in and think about how you can sell yourself, because basically every job interview that you go on, you're basically interviewing them. It's a twofold interview. One, you're interviewing the company to see if that company is a right fit for yourself. And two, the company's interviewing you to see if you are a right fit. But there are things to think about when you're looking for that next position, especially when it comes to ageism as well. How far are you willing to travel? How close is this job to your doctors? So these are things that you can use to combat ageism. And then the old thing that we always do, you start out by volunteering somewhere, and then you go from volunteering to actually sometimes being employed. But for ageism, there's a lot of great information. If you're 50 and over and you don't belong to AARP, sorry, Jeremy, I know I'm plugging the company, and you don't belong to AARP, you are missing out on a lot of great resources. And they have a ton of articles about ageism and how older adults are coping post-COVID, should be able to cope post-COVID and coping right now while we're still in COVID, and how you can go about finding remote positions where they don't require a lot of technology skills. And I hope I answered that question.
I can see the AARP envelope headed towards my mailbox from here, so I'm not minded. On the other side of that, Leah asks from Queens, how would a very young librarian plan towards a managerial position? How do you put yourself on that path?
That's a good question. You work at Queensborough Public Library. I'm a former QPL member. And I can tell you, I took every job at Queensborough Public Library that came in that was grant funded. That's how I was able to have 4 positions in 8 years at Queens Library. And that's because I was not afraid to step out from underneath, quote unquote, being a union member. And I took on those positions that allowed me to grow. One good thing about working in libraries that have grant funding, those positions allow you to grow. And how they allow you to grow is in terms of stepping out from the union positions, because the union positions are very specific. There are things that they can and you cannot do. But my grant writing skills, I'll be remiss by saying I do have a master's in philanthropy and fundraising, but I was able to hone my skills at Queens Library because I was able to go out and learn. I networked with the grants department, and I learned to write program descriptions. And so that's how I was able to segue into management. You have to think outside the box, and when I say outside the box of being in a union, don't have fear, because at the end of the day, if you're a bad employee and the employer wants to get rid of you, they will get rid of you. But yes, unions are a great thing, because our grandparents and great-grandparents, this was a way that they didn't have to be abused by. But today, I would say if you're looking to move into leadership positions, think outside of the union positions.
Thank you for that. Another question from Janet at the Floyd Memorial Library. Do you have tips for just refreshing your resume?
Yes. Wow. So again, you got to do the work. Look at what the job current. So if you want to go to a different, here's a perfect example. I went from being a public library administrator and going into working in academic at an academic library. How did I make the transition? I started looking at what some of the job descriptions were and looking at what they wanted. And I made sure that I was able to put those tools in my toolkit. So I would definitely say, if you have some downtime and you want to learn a new skill, as I said earlier, you can look at Web Junction. And the Foundation Center has changed their name. I forgot the name, what they changed their name to, but think outside. Think of, we work in libraries, but we never taught in school that it's a business in terms of the business sector. So look at libraries in terms of the business sector. And what are some of the things that trends are happening in the business sector that you can go avail yourself to take in a quick course? There are a lot of free courses online. I do know that Coursera does offer scholarships. So if you write into them and tell them like, hey, I'm not saying this happened to you, but maybe you got furloughed, maybe your hours may be reduced at your current place, and say, fill out for that scholarship and get the opportunity to take a course on Coursera. But one thing I have to say about learning online, put your cell phone somewhere that you need to get up and go get it, unless you have very small kids and you want to be in touch with them and they're outside the house, because your mind will shift when you learn online. And I also would tell you, in learn online, carve out those 2-hour blocks or an hour and a half block, and then get up and give yourself a 20-minute break, because sometimes it can be mundane. And if you're a type of person that don't like reading on the screen, then print out parts of your textbook that you might need, your digital textbook, like copy, highlight the chapters that you want. Like the ebooks are really great that you can highlight what you want to read and take it offline and give yourself less screen time. Next question.
Lori had commented just about how valuable it is to think about grant-funded positions as a growth opportunity. And I don't know the answer, but I bet you might. If grant-funded positions are subject to civil service in being filled.
No, you cannot write a grant to you cannot write grants to supplement an existing position. It's always a new position that the organization will come up with utilizing that the grant funds.
Excellent. And Michelle from Schuylerville is just commenting on how valuable her undergrad is that was in business and tech. Catherine from Chatham Public Library. I'm sorry.
Bridget has her hand up. You want to open her mic, Bridget?
Oh, sure. Let me ask this question from Carlene in Chatham. Sorry about mispronouncing your name there. Any advice on seeking out employment opportunities that might pay or help pay for a master's degree?
Now that's a key thing, because master's degrees, if I was doing a research for one of my classes that I teach, and I realized that a lot of positions today are only asking, outside of libraries, are only asking for bachelor's degrees now, but they want a slew of experience. Case in point, I was looking at a job at the PAL for one of my customers, and she wanted to work at the PAL, and it was a center director position. And she kept saying, but I have a master's and it's not asking for a master's. I'm like, what is asking for the experience? So how do you translate that master's into the experience? On a master's level, unless IMLS comes out with something, if you're looking for that, that's the only thing that I know about that will give you partial scholarships. Tech field's not really giving scholarships. It has to be something like engineering and, something, those hard skills. Unfortunately, we're at a day where masters they're needed for certain sectors, but for other sectors, they're not requiring it. They like for you to have it, but it's not being listed in the job position. So that's a catch-22, but keep your eye out and just look for scholarships. Also, you can go, people don't realize this, but if you did a Kickstarter for your college education, there's some angel donors out there. Angel donors, they love looking on Kickstarter for people who are doing different things, and not GoFundMe too much, but Kickstarter. And, they look at that and see how, if you can write your story and tell your story, develop your brand first. And sometimes you may find applying to the college for your master's, that there may be a lot of different scholarships that you can apply for, but full rides, they're far in between today, unfortunately. And Bridget had her hand up.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Bridget.
I don't know if I missed this, which is entirely possible because I'm listening.
How many screens you have open while you? How many screens do you have open while you're listening to my presentation?
Only the one, honestly.
Great. Oh, great. Because I know I've done that before.
No, well, because it's not that I'm necessarily looking for a job right now, but you know, I like to keep my resume updated and all that stuff. But would you say that a skill-based resume or a job-based resume would be better? Like, as in, you know, these are my computer skills, these are my writing skills, or would you say in this job, these were the skills that I used? Do you know what I mean? Which should be better?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You would want, it depends on the job that you're going for, whether you're going to do a functional resume or are you going to do a resume that, you know, is a mixture of the two. My current resume is a mixture of a resume and a CV because I work in higher ed as well. But what I've been seeing a lot of people do and what I've been doing with a couple of my clients is that we take the professional profile and that professional profile is derived from your brand statement. So I would say, do some research on how to create your own brand statement for your resume, right? And build the brand statement. Don't look at it so much as hard skills, those technical skills, and soft skills. They should be separate because today they're interwoven on most resumes in that skills section, right? I will, while I'm still talking, I will pull up one of my current resumes and kind of like show you what I'm talking about. Because I think what you're talking about is because you're not looking for a job, but the last time you might have looked for a job might have been a while ago and you're not quite sure how you should go about it, right? Am I correct with that, Bridget? Oh, I think I lost her.
She's still here. She just remuted her line.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly just to show the top of my resume. So you see how I have this up here? This is my brand statement, right? And this is some of my skills. This happened to be one that I use for education and a librarian. So did you get the gist of that, Bridget? On how to I have both hard and soft skills there.
And she's responding yes in the chat.
Okay, great. All right. So next question.
All right. Do you have where'd it go? So Indira from Queens asks, when you ask for a grant that was already given once and you're asking to get it again, in that case, do you think it should be considered as a new grant?
If you reapplying for a grant? Exactly. When you reapply for a grant, you should treat it as a new grant. You shouldn't take the same thing that you wrote in the last grant, because what changed in the 5 years? What have you learned in the 5 years? How has your program grown in those 5 years? Just writing the grant and submitting the same grant that you submitted 5 years ago is definitely not great. And the other thing to grant writing is that you got to pay attention to what the ask is. What are they asking you to do? Grant writing is about answering the questions. Don't veer off the questions. Answer the questions that is put in the grant proposal. So if they want you to be able to do X, Y, and Z, figure out a way to describe how your organization is going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Never give a grant, never write more than what the grant is asking you for. That's like giving out too much information that they do not need.
Given that things are looking challenging for a while, do you suggest during these challenging times to go back to school or focus on reviving badges or skill building? And that's from Shantae at SUNY Old Westbury.
I would say look at your badges. I mean, if you already have a master's degree, you don't need to go back to school. All I would say is that, you know, you just need to reskill, and that would be looking at badges, looking at where you can find courses that you can take that have badges associated with them, and they're low cost, or they don't cost you anything. I don't see, unless you're going to school to be a doctor, you know, I want to make sure my doctors have all the right credentials, because Lord knows you don't want somebody that don't have the right credentials. But I honestly, with bearing that in mind, I would say look at a place where you can garner new skills that you can add onto your resume, and then also look at a place where if you want to go into a different sector, if you have time, volunteer. And also the easiest sector to move from librarianship is into nonprofit, right? So figure out how your skills can go into nonprofit and what you can do in nonprofit, or even volunteer at a nonprofit organization, because things are looking different and they're looking bleak. And just really look at what value you can add to a company and be able to sell that.
Got a question from Shakima Miller at the Nassau Library System. Do you think employers pay attention to the skills learned on lynda.com?
Some of them do. It depends on where you are. I mean, lynda.com should give you badges, but if you do your dossier, create your dossier online and put those skills there and have everything in one place, have a digital resume, and you can link that digital resume, employers will pay attention to that. And hi, Shamika.
So there we go. I just got another one popped up. So Leslie from Docs is asking, how's the law librarian field doing these days? Is a JD still being required along with the MLS?
For some law firms, yes. Other law firms, they will hire you to do the grunt work as a librarian who specializes in working in a legal library. So it really depends. A lot. You can actually temp. There are employment agencies that if you're really interested in that, you can actually temp with just your MLS. Find jobs that last 3 months or 4 months, or now they're doing them. Now because of remote learning and remote work, you can get those positions remotely.
So it's looking like we've run through questions.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have any closing thoughts you want to share with everybody.
Yeah, so these questions are really great. Thank you. I appreciate these questions. My closing thought would be just really think about your how you can best utilize your skills, and also think outside the box. That's one of the biggest things I could share with you. And perform that SWOT analysis on yourself. Literally perform the SWOT analysis on yourself. That will definitely be able to add value for you. And taking the time to keep track of how you add value in your job will help you continue to align yourself not only with your career goals, but also with your company goals and needs. And for those of you who are interested in furthering the conversation with me, I just posted in the chat my Candidly calendar. I have free 15 minutes. You can go on there and sign up, and we can further this conversation.
Thank you so much for a fantastic presentation and conversation. I will remind anybody that maybe came in partway through the program that for a little more, if you haven't been inspired enough, you need a little more inspiration from Sandra Michelle, please do go to the sessions, search on awards, and pull up her acceptance speech for the Outstanding Service to Libraries Award from NYLA that she received this year. I know that you'll enjoy it. And with that, I will thank you all for coming and participating. We have a little bit of time. I got a half an hour before the 3:30 round of programming kicks off. I will again encourage you to take a minute to pop in and check out some of the exhibitors and let them know that you appreciate their support of the NYLA conference, keeping it affordable for everyone. Sandra, you got just a minute left. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't plug the gala.
Yes, right. I would be remiss. So I am the immediate past president of the New York Black Librarian Caucus. We are celebrating 50 years of greatness, and we are having it's a gala, professional development / get to meet a lot of new indie authors. Tickets are still on sale for not the VIP because we sold out on the VIP, but we still have tickets available where you can attend professional development and you can attend the author walk and also get to hear Tracy Hall as our keynote speaker, ALA's executive director. So if you want to come on over, tickets are $35. Just click on another link on the calendar for November 14th, and it'll pop and lead you right into your ticket. I hope that you will join us.
I hope so too, and I don't know if you said and I just missed, but that event is taking place a week from Saturday.
Yes, Saturday, November 14th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's why it's like a day of professional development, but you will definitely have a great time. The professional development, one track for professional development is Casey Boyd and Ebony Henry from DC talking about how school librarians make the transition and have been dealing with COVID. And if you liked my presentation, I am presenting at my own conference. And mine is about how to look at your job and do the appreciative inquiry model. So you can look at that. Some of the authors that we are celebrating, we have Larissa Bates. She's a great author, writer. Ellis Coase, an indie author, Rakeem, his name is Rakeem Sabri. He's talking about financial literacy. Robin Devenish is talking about is a children's writer, and also Toy Styles. If you're interested, if you remember those urban fiction books, she has Cartel Publications. And come and join us and check us out. And if you're not a member of NYBLC and you want to be a member, it's just an additional $10 on your membership at NYLA. So I hope that you will join us.
Perfect. No, thank you. That was perfect. I wanted to answer.
Post a link. Somebody wants me to post a link to the gala. Can you get it faster than me, Jeremy?
No,
I think
you can beat me.
I think I can beat you, right? All right. I'll post the link.
There. All right. And also hat tip to Beth, who has also dropped it in the chat there.
Oh, Beth did it. Thanks. Somebody beat me to it. Great.
So thank you all. A couple of people were asking about the pop-up for the CE. It's based on your duration in the room. Once you've been in the room for whatever the amount of time is, the pop-up will come. So if you come into a program late, it might not pop up at the same time for all people. And you can also check if you click on the account and check your transcript, make sure that the sessions appeared there. It may well appear without having confirmed on that pop-up, but I haven't tried. So yeah, any problems you have as far as the CE certificates go, you can contact projects@nyla.org and we'll get things squared away and get you the credit that you need. So with that, we're getting to the top of the hour. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to hit the exhibit hall before our 3:30s. Sandra Michelle, you have everyone's gratitude and thanks. I have over 130 people's promise that they'll give proper attribution if you share your slides. And we'll look for those and get them up in the archive. So thank you for a fantastic.
Check your email in 5 minutes.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Let's see.